afternoon. Thank you all so much for coming. Welcome to the Researchers and Critical Educators March 19th, 2014 lecture series. I always like to just kind of give another overview of race, and it's not anything long, but just to have everybody make sure and know that they are welcome. Race was started in 2009, and we are an interdisciplinary organization comprised of faculty, staff, and administrators, and we are brought together by a common commitment to diversity, and diversity means broadly defined. Today we will have our presentation facilitated by Dr. Darlene Murray, and our student panel moderated by Kizzy Lopez. Our lecture is entitled Experiences of Black Male College Students from Foster Care, and I would like to read a brief bio about Dr. Murray. Dr. Murray currently serves as the Graduate Advisor and Research Technician for the Doctoral Program in Educational Leadership here at Fresno State. She's also the Education Coordinator for the California Emerging Technology Fund, where she teaches computer skills to adult learners and serves as a board member for ATL Charter School. Dr. Murray is a former social worker and is an advocate for foster youth. She conducted her dissertation research on resiliency of African American former foster youth and has presented her research also at local, national, and international conferences. Ms. Kizzy Lopez is our coordinator for Renaissance Scholars, and again, she will be moderating the second half of the presentation for our students. Please welcome Dr. Darlene Murray and Ms. Kizzy Lopez.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to present my research that is actually my dissertation research to you all this afternoon. And the title of it is Experiences of Black Male College Students from Foster Care. A little bit of why I'm very passionate about foster youth is really because of my previous work experience as a social worker and just seeing everything that foster youth go through from their entry into care and their eventual exit out of care, whether it's through adoption or aging out. And the disparity amongst those that age out and then what their outcomes are once they turn 18. So here's a few facts, a little bit of the background. The U.S. currently has about 400,000 children in care, and California has the largest number of foster youth with 60,000. And a large portion of these kids experience 8 or more placements. Now that's a lot if you think about how many times a kid has to pack their bag and then go to a new home and live with a new family. And when you think about a placement change, you also know that there will be a school change for that child. And black children are 44% more likely to be placed into foster care compared to the white counterparts. And that is really based upon the racism that exists in our system. Black children are also 2.5 more times likely to experience a placement disruption compared to their white foster youth counterparts. So a lot of times foster parents will call a social worker and say, hey, I can't do this anymore, and they'll give notice on the child. As I said before, 65% of these children change schools 7 or more times. And that's really because of the home placement changes. And 75% of them are working below grade level. And they'll eventually have to repeat a grade. 50% of them will be placed in special education. So if you think about the educational outcomes of these children when they exit care, when they graduate, if they graduate, it's very sad. Here's a snapshot of foster youth in college. In a study, they found that 75% of youth desired to attend college, so they have those aspirations. But really only 3 to 11% actually obtain their bachelor's degree. And that's a rough estimate. But what we found is that systems of support like the foster youth programs, such as Fresno State's Renaissance Scholars program, is very beneficial to retaining those students and getting them to graduate. 71% of those that participate actually remain retained on campus. So the purpose of my study really was to understand what these students, especially African American males, go through when they're here on campus, what has facilitated their resiliency, and what hinders their ability to continue on. And the research questions that I have are, what are the experiences of African American male college students from foster care, and how have their family, their community, and college resources facilitated or compromised their resiliency? I used the Barnard framework for resiliency in the study. I'm sorry that the Y got cut off there. But basically, this is the successful adaptation despite risk and adversity. So how do these students overcome challenges? And what we know from this framework is that there are protective factors within the family, the community, and the college system that mitigate these barriers for them. The methods that I used for my study, this was a purely qualitative study. I interviewed 10 actually enrolled students from the CSUs, the community college. There was about two private students at semi-private schools, and all throughout the state of California. I used NVivo10 to analyze the data. This was all transcribed by me, audio recorded, and I also had an interview questionnaire, just collected some general demographic information. And here's an overview of the participants. As you can see, the years in care really varied here, but we have one student that stayed in care for his whole lifetime. I mean, his childhood. He aged out of the system. And here are the ages of the students from, young adult on up to 25. And the number of placements. This student had more than 50 placements. And if you can wrap your mind around that, it's just kind of unimaginable. I had a child that was on my caseload when I was a social worker. By the time she was 13, she had about 24 placements. So if you can imagine, by the time she exits care, she will probably have around this figure. Yeah. And you can see the variety of schools represented here. Some of the findings that I found within the data, I sifted through them with the themes related to the framework that I used. So the challenges that really rose to the surface that students talked about were placement instability, the fact that they realized that they were on their own and they didn't have the parental support, specific family challenges, that whether they were their extended family or their birth family, they still remained in contact with them and still dealt with some of the issues that they were all facing. And supporting others. These students felt obligated to help their family because they're receiving financial aid, and to other family, they've made it. They're in college, so you are successful. What I want to do is kind of skip over some of the quotes, because we do have a student panel, and we'll get to hear the voices from our own students about some of the challenges and the struggles. So I'm going to skip over that. Here's some of the findings of the themes that emerge within the family networks that support resiliency. So students talked about having a caring adult. You see that all 10 of them talked about someone very special in their family that they could go to in times of need. The fact that they wanted to give back to their family was often a driving force for them to continue on with school. And the fact that their family had high expectations of them, of the students. You're in college. We expect you to graduate, not just attend, but to graduate. And that foundation of faith. A lot of these students talked about having a grandmother that really pushed them to go to church. They went to church all the time. Or an aunt that really focused on prayer and believing in a higher power. Some of the community factors that have hindered resiliency that students talked about were directly related to poverty. The fact that they often grew up in impoverished neighborhoods, and they were often moved to foster parents that lived in poverty.